Hello, this is our final project for EEE465. Our teammates is Clifton Ramsey, Jeffrey Soriano, and me, Alcides Meza. For our project, we decided to design a standalone system, and we created a simulation of customer goals. A 40 by 40 tiny home located in Scottsdale, Arizona that is off the grid and minimized the cost and made sure that it's efficient to supply power within the home. Solar pricing plans, low kilowatt energy prices that is supplied through SRP's network and the customer generation. There's potential to save by managing the home's energy demand and also the consistent demand. The average demands are routine on-peak demand of 10 kilowatts or higher, which gives you a peace of mind not worrying about the energy expected, unexpected energy spikes, and huge variations in demands, such as during the winter and summer months, you will have a difference in your power usage. The questions that need to be answered: how does the location affect the LCOE? How does location affect yearly irradiance values of the system? What battery technology is best for each of the 3 locations? Is a solar array cheaper in one location than another? Our limitations are the roof area, which is a 20 by 20, which equals only 400 square feet of usable roof surface. For this home, we only need 200 square feet to provide reliable power to the home. We're going to opt with a low system voltage of 12 volts, and the location of the solar array and the sunlight are going to vary depending on what part of town we decide to use. And it's going to be custom for each scenario. Problems that we may run into is high battery cost, which means our power storage. What chemical battery are we going to use? What size are we going to use? And what are the recommended precautions we have to take with each area? And the sunlight hours that vary upon each season. So during the winter, the sun goes down a lot earlier versus the rest of the year. And our appliances that have a high startup current, such as our refrigerators, washer, dryer, dishwasher, and these ones that are frequent should be limited and planned, and appliances with only 12 volts DC input. And we may need transformers in some cases. Standalone, often referred to as off-the-grid system that operates independently or is not connected to an electric transmission and distributed network. The common items required to become independent are the following: balance of system equipment, batteries, charge controller, power conditioning, equipment, safety equipment, meters and instrumentation, fuses and isolation switches, inverter, wiring, photovoltaic panels, aka solar panels, wind turbines, and hydropower systems.
For the setup of our off-grid solar system, you need to establish a few steps in order to do so. First would be to calculate the total electrical load of the home and its requirements. In addition to, we also need to find a instantaneous load requirements for it as well. Our battery storage will depend on the load of the home, and our system will kind of revolve around these values that we determined throughout the report. And going forward, we were tasked with finding the best battery technology that would yield the best results for this tiny home, one being a lithium-ion battery type, or one that is a lead-acid battery or a flooded lead-acid battery. The benefits are labeled on both sides, with the lithium ion having about 80 to 90% of depth of discharge. It does have a more compact size and weight, high expected life, which is about 10 years, high energy density, maintenance, or high efficiency, low maintenance, low installation, but it does hold with a higher cost as well. And the lead acid batteries are kind of the contrast. They do have a significantly lower depth of discharge at about 30 to 40%. They are a proven and low cost technology that does also have a long shelf life, but they do require higher maintenance and installation cost. But that does still hold at a lower cost overall. And for this scenario, depending on the budget of the tiny home, that 400 square foot, the lead acid battery, which is a flooded option, which does require regular maintenance, 1 to 3 months, that would be the best route if you're looking for a lower cost solution. The other and the superior option would be a lithium battery for the solar connection. And that is one that is a lithium iron phosphate battery that is the most common for solar applications. Granted, that is also the most expensive as well. And currently on the market, there are several do-it-yourself DIY kits that you can purchase. And these are best applicable for camping, weekend trips, or week-long holiday events. They're typically not used for anything that's permanent. They're mainly used for their portability and their ease of setup. This one that's shown here has a rough price of about $8,000, provides about almost 3 kilowatts of energy, and it does not include the actual installation work. So that would also be an included cost. And for our specific scenario, we have chosen this PV module that outputs 365 watts per panel, 34.3 VMP, 10.65 IMP, and is roughly 20% efficient. The size factor is about 6 foot by 3.5 foot. And for the size of the roof that we have, we can fit 5, which fits roughly 18 by 17.5 in area. The inverter that was chosen for this design was the SolArc 12 kilowatt hybrid on-off inverter. And this can support up to a 48 battery input with either lithium ion or lead acid. It does have a 20 kilowatt peak burst power, in addition to a color touch display that will help for easy user interaction. It does also have 4 PV inputs for multiple connections, for multiple photovoltaic connections. And for our scenario, we have specific fixed values for the load requirement of the home. With each of these common items kind of combined together, we have a common average everyday watts per day, which is about 10K. And then we have amp hours per day, which is around 400. And we're assuming that most power consumption is consumed in the middle of the day or at night.
And here we have our parameters for what we believe the best system would be. The team determined the following values for the system. The creation of the system that runs in parallel will allow for a higher current value. And also there will also be an increase in overall system voltage. So basically from 12 to 24 volts. And this is for DC voltage. The drawback of using a parallel system is that it's more complex, expensive, and the charge controller will also increase in price since it is needed to handle the larger current values generated. In addition, to properly handle the higher current values, there needs to be even thicker gauge wiring throughout the system with more wiring as well. Here we have the system layout. So basically we have it from when the sun hits the solar arrays to where it meets the charge controller. And here it splits off to a buck converter and a regular inverter. The reason why we did this is because the buck converter can only handle DC voltage, which is from 12 volts to 24 volts, while the regular inverter can do higher voltages from 24 to 120, and that's for anything that involves something like a TV, or perhaps they're running a full built computer system that is, between like 450 watts to 750 watts, depending on what kind of build they have. But we accommodated both inverters just so the user has the availability to use DC voltage and AC voltage. And here we have the NPV and LCOE of the system. The general lifespan of it will be about 20 years, but that is not including maintenance costs. That is just to fully replace parts. The batteries do need to be replaced every 10 years, depending whether they get frozen, they overheat, they discharge, or whatever the case may be. For Arizona, the calculations have an average of 5.5 hours of sun per day, which should be enough to power the system. The maintenance costs will increase over time since parts do break down. And for the LCOE, the value of installation, we deemed that it was worth it when it is a long run. When you compare this to a generator, the values for initial startup costs will be very different. But in terms of long-term installation, long-term use, we decided that our system, which will be running lithium-ion batteries, a solar system, it will outlast in value compared to what a gasoline generator would do. Same thing with the NPV. The value comes from long-term use. Here we have the Python code, which we ran. We did 3 locations at the start, but we noticed that 2 locations shared very similar data in terms of the CSVTMY3 files. But for all 3 locations, we deemed that this is what the initial cost would be for battery, the system, and also maintenance costs. This is what the values will be for all 3 locations. And we see that, yes, it is a high startup cost, but this is thinking about the long-term use of it. So the annual system cost will be around $3,000 to be able to uphold the system. And in this next part here, these are the 2 locations. We chose 2 very different locations just to see how they would differ in terms of the chosen panel that we had. If you see in the top left corner, we chose Alaska. So Alaska has varying weather conditions, and sometimes they have days that are just all sun and days that are just all nighttime. So as you can see here, the availability here is drastically different with only 80%. And this is because of the drastic weather changes Alaska experiences. And then on the right, we have Newport News, Virginia, which does have similar data to our chosen location, which is Scottsdale, Arizona, with a 99% availability. So they do get about as much sun as we do, which in turn gives you a higher availability. And then you see that our used solar efficiency is less higher because while we may have lower sun hours for a daily basis, it does become more consistent because of this location. We don't have blackout days where there is just no sun at all. In conclusion, we determined these things to be the best for our off-grid system. This is in order to provide the greatest outcome we can over a long-term time. All of the needs of the customer is met within. They have AC voltage, DC voltage, whatever they need. It has a 97% availability, low LCOE value, and since we are choosing lithium ion, it is a superior battery technology, just with a higher cost. And we deemed that out of these 3 locations that we studied, the cheapest location is Scottsdale, Arizona, or Virginia. Seeing that they have similar data, we picked those. And we just want to thank you. And this was our presentation. Up next, we just have our references, and thank you.